Hi dear friends, my name is Jamal and I'm currently writing a master thesis on the topic Fractals in Finance. And today I would like to kindly draw your attention to four particular books written by two authors, namely the great Benoit Mandelbrot on the one hand, and then secondly the great Nassim Taleb. Now, as you can imagine, the crisis from 07 to 09 was in principle the biggest proof that at the moment something is going wrong in finance, or at least we're missing out something. Well, it's true, finance as an academic field and a professional practice is pretty young compared to other fields, but sadly we missed out some basic facts, especially about the underlying data on which much of finance is based on. Now, as a matter of fact, this book was already published during the 70s. It was called The Fractal Geometry of Nature, and it is a very difficult and very complex book written by the mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot. And within this book, he actually is presenting this new field which emerged since then, which he termed fractals. Now, fractals actually are certain mathematical shapes with distinct features. One of these features is so-called self-similarity or self-affinity. There's a difference between the two, but basically what it means is that many mathematical shapes can be described as a word in a word. So there are small parts of a shape resembling the whole part. And as a matter of fact, when you look at many shapes in nature, you can find these kind of fractal structures. For instance, if you look at the mountain and you zoom it in, you see that the smaller parts of the mountain actually in a way resemble the whole picture of the mountain. Similar with a palm tree or several fruits such as strawberries. Now, at that point of time, Mandelbrot already published several papers where he actually applied the principles in finance, because what he found out was that if you look at financial data, a lot of financial data is actually fractal. The underlying probability distribution has distinct features such as fractals, and it scales according to a power law. And secondly, there is something called long memory in financial prices. So the assumption of conventional theory that prices would be totally independent of each other is wrong. But I will refer to these points in later videos and get to it in a more detailed fashion. Now, secondly, there's this book. It's called The Misbehavior of Markets. Ironically, it was released shortly before the crisis. Now, I highly recommend this book as a starter because it's not a scientific book, it's really a popular science book, and Mandelbrot's intention was actually to reach a wider audience around the world, and he definitely succeeded in that. And there he really describes in an intuitive way what he found about financial markets, what it means that a lot of conventional theory may be useless or even dangerous. And yeah, he definitely has a point that this was also one of the reasons for the crisis. Now, on the other hand, I would like to present somebody who was not a researcher as such, but a practitioner with more than 20 years in experience in derivatives trading and also in hedge funds, very successful. He first wrote this book, was called Fooled by Randomness. Now, in this book, it's mainly about psychological biases, particularly related to probability as such. It's about how we are actually biased in our view and consciousness concerning randomness, that we try to see some causality where it does not exist in many cases, and the chance in life plays a greater role than it was thought. Now, he wrote this second book, also ironically shortly before the crisis, called The Black Swan. Now, I really think that this particular book, it's definitely one of the best I ever read. It's really mind-blowing, and it's not particularly about finance. That's a funny thing. It's It's more about modern philosophy, if I may call it like that, and its focus is really the role of rare events which have a very low probability of occurring but a very high impact when they occur. And it also touches upon the problems of the assumption of normality and probability distributions and so on, and it has a very pragmatic suggestion that you should try to not be exposed to these very black swans, which actually could destroy a lot of your wealth and so on. And it presents really like a whole erudite way of dealing with that problem, which has been known in philosophy beforehand. So the book really, like, it's also popular science, but it also looks at history and concerning this particular topic, and it also presents some mathematical ways of describing the problem. I really highly recommend it. And the interesting thing is, while Taleb emphasizes that nobody can predict anything, he actually predicted the crisis even in detail in this book. I think it's on page 225, where he actually wrote about that the banking system may be unstable because there's a low number of very big players, and once these players may have problems, the whole system may be at risk, so that actually, like, too big to fail is just an illusion. It's really a mind-blowing book. Now what I would like to do is I would like to post some other videos which will particularly deal with fractals in finance. So in the following videos I would like to talk about papers as well, and the purpose is just to maybe even start a discussion over YouTube. Maybe it can be an academic discussion about where we are at the moment, what can be expected, and what do we actually need, particularly also in academic research. The multifractal model, for instance, it's really, I would say, the newest advancement we have at the moment. So what's happening now is different researchers around the world are working on multifractal analysis tools. For instance, some people work on wavelet analysis, others on cascade analysis, and it would be very nice if some of the other researchers would respond maybe via YouTube and actually present their views, so that we all can learn something from it. And it would be great if we could keep it on a very intuitive level, so that people could also take something away from it who maybe didn't even study at all, who just want to know what's going on, and to maybe give them some insights into this emerging field of fractals. I'm really fascinated about this field because it has many applications also in other sciences, and it's really fascinating. It seems to me that really the world we live in is fractal as such, that human bodies are fractal. When you, for instance, look at the lungs, you see this kind of self-affinity. When you look at nature, it's highly fractal. And as I stated beforehand, the same is valid for finance, the same is valid for probability theory. So just to sum up, our world is really dominated by a fractal structure. It's not always perfectly fractal, it's not always self-similar. This may be just a theoretical concept, a mathematical concept, but the implications of the self-similarity, self-affinity, in reality, they are really huge, and it really brings us to a point where we have to rethink the core of conventional theory in many fields, such as finance. I hope you enjoyed my short discussion. I hope that you will watch my other videos, give me some time to produce them, and all the best to you from Germany.